Greetings, young scholars. The following video is to give you an idea of how I go about my own programming, as well as to review the fourth and fifth program I had hoped to complete in class on Thursday. So when I am doing my own programming, I like to think out loud and use our comments in order to tell me or remind myself about what I'm going to do. So for the example, the fourth example I was going to do in class on Thursday was to demonstrate the use of a for loop by determining multiples from user input. So the first thing I need to do whenever there's user input is to import the scanner class. Then I would have to create my class. As you saw in class on Thursday, I always try to make my class name as specific as possible, whatever I'm doing. So then I indicate what I want my class to do in comments. What this means is we're taking two user inputs and determining what multiples there are within those two limits. Then I would have to create my method. Then I would think about what kind of variables I need in order to run my program effectively. In this instance, I'm going to create a variable final int per line, which you'll notice is in use later on in our for loop. Then I'm going to create integers value, limit, mult, and count, and initially set them as 0. But then I need to obtain our user input. So we use our scanner as an object to secure information we need. But we then need to print out a message to the user to get them to provide the lower limit. We then need to take that in using our value integer we set earlier. Next, we do the same in order to secure our upper limit. And we set this equal to the limit integer we set above. So now we've created our two user inputs. Next, we want to set up so that we are printing out all of the multiples Make sure to include spaces when you need them of our value, which if you recall earlier is our lower limit between again value, our lower limit, and limit, which was our upper limit. And we say inclusive R in this instance because we're including the upper and lower limit within those multiples. So now we need to create our for loop. So for the instance where our multiple equals our value or lower limit, then the multiple is less than or equal to the limit. Our multiple plus or equal value. So then within our for loop, we need to print out how many specific lines we want, and we already set that above as 5 with per line. And then we use an iterator for our count. And an if function. If count percentage per line equals 0, then we print it out. Then we have to make sure that everything's closed. Our for loop is closed. Our method is closed. Our class is closed. Now, if we run this, you'll be able to keep inputting a lower or upper limit so long as the user does not input the number 0. Once the number 0 is inputted, the program will stop. Hence the per line 0. So we run. This is going to be our lower limit. So I will use the number 18. It should be asking us for a lower limit, but it has not. Let's try running this again. We'll enter the lower limit as 9. The upper limit we are now requested for, let's say 91. Once we hit enter, it should output all of the multiples in between 9 and 91 inclusive, which will include 9 and 91 if necessary. So the multiples are 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, and 90. You'll notice there are only 5 on each line, and you'll also notice that our /t in parentheses shows up because I did not put a space after the plus in between them. So if we run this again and enter our lower limit as 9 and our upper limit is 91, you'll see we have the same error again because I've used the wrong slash. This is why you always want to think through everything you're doing ahead of time. Once I fixed everything up, you see 5 in a row of the multiples, exactly the way we want them. So as you play around with your code throughout this course, you're going to have situations where you may have issues with typing in your code, spelling your code. That's why this is just my method. I have no issues with, hey, I made an error, let's fix it up. I made a mistake, let's move on. Let's fix it and run the program, see if it works until our errors are resolved. You're more than welcome to simply put in what works for you. Like I said, this is just the way I go about it. So the 5th example I wanted to show in class on Thursday was to demonstrate the use of the number format class to format output. In this instance, we're going to be formatting percentage and currency. So, since we're going to be collecting input from the user, we need the scanner class. And because we are going to be using the number format class, we need to import that as well. So then I need to create my class. In this instance, I will call it purchase because we're focusing on calculating the final price of a purchased item using values entered by the user. So I need to create a method. Within this method, I am going to set our final tax rate to 7% like it is here in New Jersey. So this represents our 7% sales tax. Then I'm going to create an integer quantity, which the user will input a quantity number of how many products they're going to purchase. Then I'm going to set subtotal, tax, total cost, and unit price all to doubles. So when you write out your code, you could simply have done double sub, tax, cost, price. Like I said, I just like to do things as specifically as possible. Now we're going to use an object to bring in our input from the user. Now we're going to create inputs using number format. The first one will be currency. Because we're using money here, transaction. Our second will be percentage, which in this case will be used for our tax. So first, we're going to ask our user for the quantity. How much? How many items are we buying? We're going to assign this to our quantity variable. Next, we're going to ask our user for the unit price. And that's going to be assigned to our unit price variable. Notice how our variables, next int and next double, have to match what we used above when we initialize them. So our subtotal is going to be our quantity variable times our unit price variable. Our tax variable is going to equal our subtotal multiplied by our tax rate variable. The total cost variable is equal to the subtotal plus the tax. So now we need to print output with appropriate formatting, which is the purpose of using our number format class. So we output subtotal plus our FMT1 we set above here. And because that is a currency, we format the subtotal as a currency. Then we need to do the same with our tax. We display an output where our variable above displays out the tax as currency. Then we say at, and then we display our actual tax rate. So what you'll notice above, tax equals subtotal times tax rate. And then last but not least, we have to set out to print what our total is. So we will do total space plus our FMT1 formatted as currency because we're using total cost. So our tax rate is going to be formatted as percentage, as we did above with number format FMT, and all of the others will be formatted as currency, as we did with FMT1. All of our system.out print lines prints out code based on our secured user input, entering quantity and unit price, and our number formats make sure that our code is displayed correctly as either a percentage or currency. Once we run our code, we're given an error because I misspelled unit price. And we're given another error because I did not capitalize the subtotal T. Again, this is why you may go about it where you do things less specific than I do. Because when I do these things, being specific sometimes works and sometimes does not work. And now once I fixed all those spelling errors, it asked me for the quantity. I like the number 17, so I'll claim the quantity of 17. I'm then asked to enter the unit price. I always like the number $9.99. So here we're given a subtotal of $169.83. Again, our subtotal is the quantity times the unit price. So it's simply 17 times $9.99. Then our tax variable gives us what the tax is, which is our subtotal, 169.83 times 7%, which gives us $11.89. Our total cost is then the subtotal plus tax, which is our 169.83 plus our 11.89, which is our 181.72. So again, this is just how I go about my programming process. As you see, it's a little involved because when I try to be as specific as possible, sometimes there are spelling errors that result in issues that require exception handling. If you want to be less specific, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, you could have written the variable subtotal as just sub. So this way there are no spelling errors. All right, thank you.